The plans are in an hour. You agreed to them days ago, maybe even weeks ago. And back then, it seemed fine. Easy, even. But now, as the time gets closer, something shifts. Your chest tightens, your energy drains. The thought of leaving your house, of being social, of performing the version of yourself that other people expect, it feels impossible. So you do what you've done before. You send the text, the apology, the excuse. And the moment you hit send, you feel two things simultaneously: relief and shame. Relief because you don't have to go. Shame because you know you're letting someone down. Again. And you wonder what's wrong with you, why you can't just follow through, why something that seemed manageable days ago feels unbearable now, why you keep doing this even though you hate yourself for it. But here's what you need to hear. You're not flaky. You're not a bad person, and you're definitely not alone. There's real psychology behind why some people cancel plans at the last minute, and understanding it might finally help you stop punishing yourself for a pattern you never fully chose. So let's talk about what's really happening when you cancel plans at the last minute, because this isn't about being unreliable or inconsiderate. It's about how your nervous system responds to commitment. And once you understand that, the shame starts to lose its grip. First, let's get clear on something important. When you agreed to those plans, you meant it. You genuinely wanted to go. But here's the thing. You agreed to them with future energy, with the version of yourself that exists in theory, not in reality. And future you always seems more capable than present you. Future you has energy. Future you is social. Future you can handle it. But when the time actually comes, when you're no longer planning and you're about to execute, reality hits. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You don't have the bandwidth you thought you'd have. And the thing that seemed easy from a distance now feels like climbing a mountain you don't have the strength for. Here's what makes it worse. The closer the plans get, the more real they become. And with that reality comes awareness. Awareness of what the plans will actually require. The getting ready, the commute, the small talk, the energy management, the performance. And if you're someone whose social battery drains quickly, if you're someone who finds social interaction costly, that awareness creates panic. Because you're not just going to an event, you're committing to hours of energy expenditure you're not sure you have. And your nervous system, which is designed to protect your resources, starts sending signals. This is too much. You can't do this. You need to preserve your energy. And those signals feel like dread, like resistance, like an emergency alarm telling you to cancel. Now, let's talk about something deeper. People who cancel plans at the last minute often struggle with something called temporal discounting. That's when your brain values immediate relief over future consequences. In the moment you're canceling, the relief is instant and tangible. The guilt and disappointment, those are future problems. And your brain, especially when it's stressed or overwhelmed, will always choose immediate comfort over delayed discomfort. It's not that you don't care about letting people down. It's that in that moment, the need to protect yourself feels more urgent than the need to honor your commitment. And that's not selfishness, that's survival instinct. Your nervous system has decided that showing up would cost you more than you can afford, and it's pulling the emergency brake. Here's another layer. For some people, canceling plans at the last minute is about control. When you make plans, you're giving away a piece of your autonomy. You're committing your time, your energy, your presence to someone else's agenda. And if you're someone who needs a lot of control over your environment and your schedule, that loss of autonomy feels threatening. So canceling becomes a way of reclaiming power, a way of saying, actually, I get to decide what I do with my time. It's not about the person or the plans, it's about the feeling of being trapped by a commitment you made when you felt differently than you do now. And breaking that commitment, even though it comes with guilt, also comes with a sense of freedom. But here's what people don't talk about. Sometimes canceling plans at the last minute isn't about the plans at all. It's about avoidance. If you're struggling with anxiety, with depression, with feeling like you're barely holding it together, social plans become one more thing you have to manage, one more place where you have to pretend you're okay. And when you're not okay, when you're drowning in your own stuff, the idea of putting on a happy face and being present for someone else feels impossible. So you cancel, not because you don't care, but because you're in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't have room for socializing. It barely has room for existing. Let's reframe something here. Canceling plans at the last minute doesn't make you a bad person, but it does create consequences. People feel disappointed. They feel disrespected. They start to see you as unreliable. And over time, they stop inviting you. They stop trying. And then you're left with the very isolation you were trying to avoid. Because here's the painful irony. The pattern that protects you in the moment is the same pattern that disconnects you in the long run. You're saving your energy by canceling, but you're losing your relationships in the process. And that trade-off, whether you realize it or not, has a cost. Here's what's important to understand. The guilt you feel after canceling, that's not just social conditioning. That's your values conflicting with your behavior. You value connection. You value being reliable. You value showing up for people. But your nervous system is prioritizing something else, self-preservation. And when those two things are in conflict, when your values and your capacity don't align, the result is shame. You feel bad because you care, but caring doesn't give you the energy you don't have. And that's the bind. You're caught between wanting to be someone who follows through and being someone who can barely get through the day. And in that space, canceling feels like the only option. Now let's talk about patterns. If you cancel plans at the last minute regularly, it's worth asking yourself, am I overcommitting? Am I saying yes to things I don't actually want to do because I feel obligated? Am I agreeing to plans to avoid disappointing people in the moment, even though I know I'll disappoint them later? Because sometimes the real problem isn't the canceling, it's the agreeing in the first place. If you're someone who struggles with boundaries, who has a hard time saying no, you're going to end up in situations where canceling is your only way out. And that's not a character flaw, that's a boundary issue. You're trying to protect yourself after the fact because you didn't protect yourself up front. Here's the shift. You can be someone who cancels plans sometimes without being someone who cancels plans always. And the difference comes down to honesty. Honesty with yourself about what you can actually handle. Honesty with others about your capacity. Honesty in the moment about whether you genuinely want to go or if you're just saying yes to avoid conflict. Because when you're honest up front, when you only commit to things you actually have the bandwidth for, the last-minute cancellations decrease, not because you've become more reliable, but because you've become more realistic about what you can sustain. But here's the compassionate truth. Sometimes, even with the best intentions, even with honesty and boundaries, you're still going to need to cancel, because life is unpredictable. Your energy is finite, and you can't always predict how you're going to feel when the time comes. And that's okay. That doesn't make you unreliable, that makes you human. The goal isn't to never cancel. The goal is to cancel with integrity, to communicate clearly, to give people as much notice as possible, to acknowledge the impact without drowning in shame, to take responsibility without making it mean something catastrophic about who you are. Here's what I want you to take from this. If you cancel plans at the last minute, it doesn't mean you're selfish or flaky or incapable of connection. It means your nervous system is protecting you from something. Maybe it's overwhelm. Maybe it's depletion. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's the weight of pretending to be okay when you're not. And while that protection has consequences, while it does affect your relationships, it's also telling you something important, that you're overextended, that you're not honoring your capacity, that you're saying yes when you need to say no. And the work isn't to force yourself to show up. The work is to get honest about what you can handle and to stop agreeing to things that exceed that. So the next time you feel the urge to cancel plans at the last minute, pause. Ask yourself, is this about the plans or is this about me? Am I canceling because I genuinely don't have the energy, or am I canceling because I'm avoiding something uncomfortable? And if it's genuinely about capacity, if you really can't show up without depleting yourself, then cancel, but do it with clarity, do it with communication, do it without the spiral of shame, because you're allowed to protect your energy, you're allowed to change your mind, you're allowed to prioritize yourself. You just have to do it in a way that honors both your needs and your relationships. And that's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. Here's my question for you. Do you cancel plans at the last minute? And if so, what's usually the real reason behind it? Drop a comment and share. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this video helped you understand yourself better, consider subscribing. We explore the psychology of being human without judgment. Next time, we're diving into why some people feel guilty for taking up space. You won't want to miss that one. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.